It's Ed Radio Australia. Great to be here for the Genius Zone. We have a very special guest waiting off camera who right now is probably a bit concerned. I don't think she can hear us, but can you hear us now, secret person in the background? Just give us a little nod. There we go. That's all we need. Gotta love technology. Well, it's not really tech. Okay, let's be very honest. It was more about the fact that Terry had to get our champagne going. Okay, it's really, we've got to have priorities. This is our first show on a Friday night. And for our special guest who is... Oh, is it? See, I don't even know what day it is. There we go. It is Thursday. Guess what? You don't have to whisper it to me. You can tell me. I've lost track of even the day. That is great. We are ready for the Genius Zone. I'd love to have you here, Terry. Are you ready for a big show?
I am super duper ready, and I hope you are.
I am.
I hope you got your rocket clothing on. Yeah, you look like it. You got your hat.
Oh, you're doing the Rocket Man. I know what you're doing.
Rocket Man. I saw you on Facebook doing Rocket Man. I tell you what, you did Rocket Man better than Elton John himself.
Oh, dear.
Except, okay. Well,
could I have his bank balance, please? Okay, we'll go with that.
Yes.
Hey, we have a special guest. Why don't you do the introductions? Why I keep her sneaking in the background here and ready to come up on screen. Who have we got?
We have a lovely person by the name of Robin.
Yep.
And Robin believes that you are really going through crisis in your life because of the saying that you know, which is it's not happening to you, it's happening for you.
Big believer in that.
And, you know, she believes that it's a big part of alchemizing and also the prompting of our spirit to know our soul purpose.
Well, okay, they're a lot of big words.
Yeah, I mean, you know, so when we're feeling a little bit of angst, when we're feeling, you know, that feeling like something's not right, it's a great feeling. You've got to celebrate. But with no further ado, let's bring the incredible Robin Thomas on. Hello, welcome.
Hey, how are you?
We're great. You are in the US of A, I would assume, with that accent.
Yes, I am actually on the East Coast in Massachusetts.
Lovely to have you, Robin. Fantastic. Really cool. I did see the moment of absolute terror when you thought you had no audio. But as I say, you've got to understand we've got priorities around here at Edge, and Robin had to look after the drinks.
Honestly, that is a high priority, and I support that.
Exactly. We can't be wasting time with sound checks or anything high tech like that. Lovely to have you. Really looking forward to today's show. It should be really interesting.
Yeah.
So let's jump into it.
Yeah, well, Aaron, there seems to be a bit of a theme going on around here at the moment.
What's going on there?
You know, we've been talking all things 5-dimensional, and this, you know, I don't want to steal your thunder. However, let's go back to the mother's womb.
Oh, jeez.
We can't go back further than that. But you were born out of trauma. Okay. And the traumatic experience that you had obviously was a really big part of your purpose and what you're playing out for us now. So, Robin, let's hear the story about how it all went back to your mother's womb, where you came from, and how that transformed you into the incredible person you are today.
Okay, so, the story is, the reality is when my mom was 6 months pregnant with me, my biological father was jumped outside of a bar and killed. It was late on a Friday night, and it was a big deal trauma, like really big deal. So that was that's my origin story, really. It was something, it's weird to grow up grieving somebody that you've never met before. And I can only imagine that most of the grief that I felt, because I don't really feel, I don't know, a grief of my own for Rocco, but the fact that I, didn't have my dad growing up, but my mom was devastated. They had been together since they were 15 years old. They had just gotten married 2 or 3 weeks before this. It was he was her rock. It was a big deal. She really probably didn't want to stick around after he was gone, and I think the only reason she did is that I was here or coming, but she was completely wiped. Then she wasn't really present for the first couple of years of my life. She just didn't have it in
Understood. Yeah.
there. And I also my family was grieving. The entire family was lost. Like he had been, he lived with my mom and her family, but his family, all of it was just so life shattering. That was what I was. I was always Rocco's daughter. Like I almost didn't have my own identity.
Mhm.
The
Oh,
reason,
wow.
Yeah.
right? So there
You
was
were
a
sort of living
lot.
in the shadow. You were
Yes.
living in the shadow of Rocco, and you
Uh-huh.
didn't even know who this rock star was.
Right.
And the one thing that I'd love to know is, do you feel that you could sense when you're a child, your mother's grief and some of the agony and anguish that was going on? And what did your mum do to help get over it?
Could I can say as an adult now, I felt it then. As a kid, could I have articulated that? I don't, probably not. I did feel a sense of wanting to be really good for my mom, like really take care of my mom, really be, um, like even as a little kid, I can remember wanting to take care of her. But I also remember that when I was a really little kid, I
Mhm.
wouldn't go to my mom for comfort. I remember that I went to
Right.
my grandma in the middle of the night when I woke up. I know I went to my grandmother's bedroom. I didn't go to my mom's bedroom. So even as a
Did you
kid, I
feel?
probably had the sense.
No, I think you're right. I think maybe, and here's me doing my little psychoanalyzing, but I think you were probably trying to fill a void for your
Yeah.
mum, and
Mhm.
obviously, you couldn't go to her for support. You had to go elsewhere.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
what
Exactly.
it is a tough way to start.
Yeah. Yeah. But
But
I
You
also
know,
know that
yeah,
that's what had to happen. I couldn't be who I am now if
exactly.
that didn't happen.
very true.
That's exactly what I was just about to say. It was part of the purpose for your life. And this is where one of your core beliefs, or one of your pillars about people who are finding their destination, their purpose, or do we ever find our destination?
Who knows?
Probably not, but our life purpose. And I believe, I for one, just from my own personal experience, can say that finding your life calling is the greatest thing you can possibly do on this planet Earth. It beats the heck out of even hanging off the rafter and jumping from an aeroplane and skydiving and doing stuff like what my sister's doing in Canada right now. But
Good on her.
yeah, good on her.
Yeah,
But to be in your life purpose, there's a real joy. It's not a fake
I totally understand and
happiness.
agree with you. I think so many of us are taught to look, let's just say, pursue false gods, okay, whether they be fast cars, fancy houses, a husband or a wife who fits a particular, look, which is so shallow, but let's be honest, that's
It
how some people,
happens.
live their lives. So when you actually find your life purpose and you
Yeah.
go, hang on,
Yeah.
I'm latching onto this, I'm going for it,
Yes.
it totally changes everything.
It really, really does. And you've heard about the guru, and Robin, I don't think I mentioned it on our podcast, but the guru is the gold, right? The gold, G for gold, R for kind of recognizing what made you go guru in the first place. Like you've got a few of those happening, haven't you?
I'm like a rapid dog. I really am.
No,
I've got a
I
few.
wasn't making that insinuation. But now that you say it,
I'm a grizzly bear with something stuck in his foot. I can grrr all I like.
well, you do. Well, at least you're, giving our listeners a real indication of what I'm talking about. So whatever your guru is in life, and it's not just a momentary guru, it's a something where you feel like you want to stand up and you want to speak out about it. And you know all about that, Aaron.
Sure do.
Freedom of speech, people in politics, people that are really serving a greater purpose. They're doing that out of a guru.
Right. Yeah.
And you would know that.
It
You would
does.
surely know that.
I know.
Because
I don't disagree with that.
because Aaron's had a pretty tough past, and you only have to go back and have a look at some of our content. And here you are today, and you're living out what you're doing. And I know you've got there's still a lot longer for you to go, and so far further. so much that's happening for you. But if it wasn't for all the rubbish, and I mean, I've had rubbish, I've got rubbish going on now, and I mean, we all do, but if it wasn't for that, you know, you wouldn't have the backbone and the
I appreciate
grunt
that.
and the, you know, that real, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to speak my mind about this.
I had someone in my life many years ago, and she said everybody has their own woohoo story, right? And I tell you right now, what a great statement, because we all do. We all have something, adversity. I mean, Robin, you know, started with behind the eight ball. Let's face it, right? Like, you know, we've all got our old woohoo story there. And we can either live in it, and we can live in the sadness of it. And sometimes, I mean, I've certainly used chunks of my life to live in the sadness of things. But it's when you go, guess what? That sadness or that adversity, whatever it happens to be, when you turn that into fuel and you go, no, okay, I'm going to make that negative into a positive. That is going to be the fuel that fires me.
The fuel to fire. I love that. That's so good. That could be your tagline, right?
Okay,
right there. So, you know, I believe you are the expert in the room on this, Robin. So talk us through. I'll just finish the guru. So the G for gold, the R for recognizing what's making us go guru in the first place, followed by the second R, which is releasing it, because we do require to release it in order to be able to step into our true power and to be able to obviously help. I mean, we use the word alchemize, transforms probably a lot more layman terms. And of course, revolutionize. That's the last R, which is revolutionizing, is where you are turning that pain into power, that fuel into fire, you know, that trial into triumph. So, yeah, but I'd love you to speak on this, because I know there's a lot of people out there that might be sitting back wondering what the heck's going on in their life. Why are they not feeling like there's something missing? They feel like there's something not right. So maybe you can open that up.
Sure. Yes. I mean, yeah. I will tell you that, I mean, life happens. We always have trauma. Earth is the school of hard knocks. It's our souls want to know, they want to understand, they want to have experiences. It creates us in this world expressly so that we can have experiences.
Agreed.
When it's in the soul plane and there's like there's love, there's no distance, there's nothing, there's just love, there's just connection, there's just togetherness. The soul can't actually, it can understand concepts like abandonment and rejection and heartbreak and sadness. It doesn't feel them. It doesn't have any ability to feel that. So it creates us and it creates experiences expressly so that we can learn through them. They're meant to break us open. The heart opens in love and compassion and affection through grief. We have to learn to grow through shame. We have to learn to grow through fear. That's how our chakra system opens. That's how the soul experiences the world.
Wow. You talk about the chakra system just for our listeners, because Edge Radio has a wide range of different listeners, and I'm sure if they understand what does it mean when she says opening up, cracking open. I love that, cracking open all of that grief. So letting the light in. I heard that also once said. But can you just explain to our listeners what exactly are the chakras?
Well, I can do this. I can do the 30-second version. But I think of chakras as different than everybody else. Well, not everybody else. I think of chakras different. The traditional definition is that they're energy centers within that invisible. You can't see them. They're energy centers. There are 7 energy centers through our body. They are, what I will tell you is, they're gateways to the soul. They're gateways to consciousness. They are energy vortexes. They correspond to a different part of your body. They go right from the base of your spine to the top of your head. And they each have a color and a sound and a thing associated with them. But for me personally, they are a way for the soul to experience the world. So the first chakra, the soul experiences a physical body. It experiences family and roots and earth and the physical world. In the second chakra, it experiences the emotional world, passion, joy, sensuality. In the third chakra, it experiences action and ego and choice and beliefs. In the fourth chakra, it experiences love, to love and be loved. In the fifth chakra, it experiences what it means to speak and and speak your heart's truth. The vibrations of the world come through the fifth chakra.
That would be the throat chakra, wouldn't it?
Exactly. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
And then sixth chakra is again, it can see, it can perceive, and then the seventh chakra is what opens us up to different realms. That was the most basic version of the chakras. I teach a whole course.
That was probably one of the best explanations I've ever heard.
All jokes aside, I like the Reader's Digest version. Nice, go straight to the point. I'm not there to read a novel. Give it to me a brochure. I love it. That's the way to go.
Yeah, that was really, really, really well said. And it makes sense because we've all got a voice, and a lot of us don't know how to use it. And a lot of us often feel closed down and we don't know why. And even myself, I've got this little bit of a voice happening at the moment because I know that my chakra, if you like, felt like it was closed down. And so that's happened to me a couple of times.
Did you have a baby chakra? I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'll leave now.
Like my grandson asked me to sing Baby Chakra, the other, the mama chakra.
Oh, no.
Anyway, I won't go into that. But yeah, so no, that was a really good. What I wanted to say though, and with the chakras, and I like the way you said they've each got a color. Now, I'm going to say this. I totally believe you because I know there's color, but I always thought that we made it up. So, I really did. So, in other words, when you're doing NLP and you're saying to someone, when you think about something that's exciting and exhilarating and, and you're jumping out of a plane or you're riding that wave or you're driving that fast car or you're dancing or you've met your soulmate or whatever it is, what's the first color that comes to your mind? So I always figured that we made it up according to what we kind of thought up in our own subconscious or our imagination. So maybe you can talk about that. Do we really have a coding system?
Well, yes, we have a coding system, and it is made up, but it's a made up part of the collective. So we all are connected. Again, at the soul level, we're all connected. There's no space, there's no time, there's no distance. Everybody alive on the planet right now is connected to everybody else. That's part of the human condition. Most of us don't remember that, don't know it, don't understand it, which is why we can do such terrible, awful things to people. Because we don't see the connection of what happens to one of us happens to all of us. So did we make it up? Probably. Is it also in the collective so that we all can sort of sense it and see it and feel it? Yes. So it's both true and not. Which, and again, that's part of our experience on the planet, is to recognize that we're part of a bigger picture.
Future, yes, absolutely. Unitedness, oneness.
Oh, look at the power you've got when you unite.
Yeah, but there's so much separation. I mean, wars. We are separated with wars. We are separated with arguments, with divorces, with falling outs. I mean, we've all done it. We all do it. And yet, ultimately, the greatest thing where it's like nirvana is oneness. It's when
look at you go.
So it's this oneness where you and I guess there's all sorts of ways that we can do it. And I'll quickly just say one of the ways that I would do it with a client, and that is to zoom out. So when you zoom out and you're kind of moving yourself away from the mud, from the weeds, from the situation, and then you're alchemizing through the light. You're rising up, you're perhaps even connecting with the light, you know, the sun, for example,
Sure.
and you are receiving that healing, no negative energy can live in light. So it's,
Ooh,
you know,
I
dark,
don't know.
you know,
I don't
bring
know.
the darkness out. Like
Uh,
if you filled every cell of your body, right,
yeah.
with light, I mean love and light, Aaron,
Mm-hmm.
and I could quantum leap you back
Yep.
to before your time, before
Okay.
your mother's womb, before your past 7 generations,
Okay.
and you jumped into a space. Just imagine this for a moment. You jumped into a space where there was no judgment, there was no meaning. Life was literally empty and meaningless and had no meaning. So there was no meaning. Nothing was good, nothing was bad, nothing was happy, nothing was sad. In fact, everything and everyone that wronged you, who cares?
But that would
There's
be
no
very,
meaning.
very boring.
But that's before
Exactly.
humanity.
Hmm.
Yeah.
We need
so
light and shade, right?
Robert,
You need good and bad.
Yeah. So enlighten on the exactly.
Well, so I mean, that's exactly what I was just talking about. Is that exact place of there's nothing, there's no good, there's no bad. That's the soul. As I was just talking about the soul plane. The soul can only understand concepts, but it doesn't have a lived experience
Sure.
unless it incarnates, unless it's on the human world. So if you're in the soul plane where everything is one, yes, it's love and it's peace and joy and all, but there's no growth. Growth happens. We go back to the original question. Growth happens when there's challenge, when it's painful, when it's uncomfortable. Comfortable people won't grow. So
Mhm.
so
Yeah,
if we
true.
spend our lives avoiding and trying to pretend that I don't want this pain and I definitely don't want these pain, and like if we spend our lives trying to avoid getting hurt, feeling sad,
Yeah.
being upset, then we never grow. We never experience.
I
Can't
have this
evolve.
argument all the time with people as far as exactly that. Like I am so anti-participation award, you just can't believe it. I hate that for wrapping your children in cotton wool. Kids need to learn consequences. They need to get out and get hurt and all that. And I've even got a bit of a, this is very unpopular opinion, but I think there's a place for bullies, right? Okay. I really do, because bullies make you resilient. They make you tough. Now,
Oh,
if you
absolutely.
hang on, if you've got the right tools to deal with them. Now, if you haven't, then it's a very
But
negative thing
sometimes you might go out and get the right tools because you were
because of
bullied.
as a catalyst. Exactly
Yeah.
right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
Exactly.
I mean, I don't want life to be horrible for people, but I want conflict. So conflict will create growth. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, certainly will instigate it.
Well, and
Yeah.
again, if we go back to everything has ever happened for you, you can say that your soul and that soul contracted to so that that soul would literally bully you expressly to wake you up to your purpose, expressly to wake you up to who you're meant to be in this world. I can tell you that my stepdad was fairly a bully to me as a kid and growing up, and I'm still sometimes. If I didn't have to overcome that, again,
Mhm.
if I didn't have to overcome
Mm.
Rocco dying and
Yep.
dealing with my stepdad, I would never have gotten to the place that I was. I wouldn't have spent 40 years trying to figure out what was wrong with me to only figure out, oh, there's really nothing wrong with me.
No.
And so the next 10 years was like, oh, people need to know that there's absolutely nothing wrong with them because
Oh,
this is
center of
amazing.
breeze. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
But can you imagine also how it can impact and influence your life by knowing this? So if you
Yes.
know that, you know, oh, this is happening for me. So
Oh.
all this stuff, like, you know, even what I'm going through, sometimes I can think to myself, this is unbelievably painful, right? And sometimes because, you know, obviously people and not everyone knows, but because of the situation with my husband. But do you know something? I swear that if I told people that my husband had died, I wouldn't get as much sympathy as I do telling them that he is in the situation that he is in. And yet, one of the saving graces for me on the topic is knowing that this is not about my journey. This is about his journey.
Well, yes and no. I mean, clearly about
It
his
is my journey
but yeah,
too.
you are on this slate, right?
Yeah,
Like, you know, yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
yes. And I mean, it has changed the trajectory of even my coaching.
Okay.
And I mean, I'll always be the coach, you know, through NLP, what you're talking about. And we call it energetics, by the way. You know, you talk about it. I heard last night someone was talking about it as in metaphysics, and she'll be coming on the show down the track. And then what would you call it? You call it chakra, you call it spiritual healing. What else do you call it?
I mean, ultimately, what I often will call it is consciousness. And that's a big word that gets bandied about, and I don't think people understand. For me, when I say consciousness, it's the wanting to know. And I use know with like a capital K, like not just like I know facts, but to know thyself. Again, the soul wants to know itself. If every soul alive, every soul knows that it has and the whole purpose is for it to know itself. That's the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. If we embrace all of that, then we raise the consciousness level, the awareness level of the entire planet, of all of the
You're an
planets, of all
incredible
its
teacher.
dimensions.
Yeah.
I think it all starts with one very, very simple word: why.
Yes.
And I think you need to be asking. Okay, that is, it's a question as a kid. You know, why, which is sometimes a little bit tiresome. But it's actually one of the most beautiful words, because exactly that. When you ask that, you are asking that question, and you will look deeper into yourself, and you use the word consciousness. Well, that's great. And the word know, it all starts in my eyes with the why, and then it goes to the next level.
Absolutely. But it's not like, why is this happening to me?
No.
It's why is this happening for me? Why?
Yeah.
What do I need to know from this?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Did you know in NLP, and I think I've told you this before, Aaron, we have to teach people to ask the what questions.
Okay.
So I had someone the other night, I was telling you, or attempting to tell you the story before we started, about someone who was actually met me the other night, and he was absolutely dead set that he wanted to know how, not what, but how I do hypnosis. And every time I tried to explain it to him in a story, oh, no, but you haven't told me how. You haven't told me how. And, you know, when we teach NLP, we stay away from the why unless it's something you want.
Okay.
So let's just say you want to create a radio station that's going to impact the world and create freedom of speech.
It's almost like you're reading my mind. It's amazing. Yes.
And, you know, like, okay, so then the big $64 million question then would be why. And what would happen is we would go down the layers of the why. But what you would find, and I won't bore you with it right now, is that when you get to level what Robin's talking about, it comes from pain.
All of these things come from pain.
Yes.
I'm yet to find something in life that has been genuinely productive that has not actually come from pain. I think that pain is the great catalyst, because quite frankly, when things are going so well, it's like playing life on like a computer game on easy mode, right? Things come very comfortably, and you don't have to be challenged. You're not having to be pushed harder. Whereas when things are negative, when you find pain, whatever, in whatever structure that happens to be, well, guess what? The levels on the game just get higher and higher, and you're challenged more.
Yeah.
But you learn more. So.
I feel like we're on a higher level now, you know.
Okay.
Addressing the elephant in the room. It's 5 a.m. where Robin is, and I just have to say you are an absolute legend, right? And it was 5 p.m. when we decided to I decided to pour a little glass of sparkling. So don't worry, it's not 5 a.m. over here, Robin.
I figured. I'll drink my tea. We'll be good.
Robin, what's really in that mug? Come on.
So, you know, it's, you know, one of the things, interestingly, that you said consciousness, right? So I love how you said that, because that just really wraps it up for everyone. Everyone knows they've got consciousness, and
I don't know if everyone knows that.
I actually don't. I'm going to argue. I don't think most people do. I think most people.
Well, how many levels of consciousness do we have?
As many as there are. There's the infinite levels of consciousness.
I thought we had 3. I thought we had. I thought we had. I'll tell you what I thought
Okay.
we had. I thought we had a conscious mind,
Mhm.
a subconscious or unconscious mind,
Mhm.
and a superconscious or God conscious mind.
Okay. Okay.
Well, okay, at the most simple level, sure, we can think that. But within each level, there are infinite layers of understanding, and like you could mine unconscious for. I mean, there are people who did it. They mined like Freud and Jung, and they mined unconscious as their life's work, and they still didn't get to the bottom of it. It's
Yeah,
infinite
yeah.
layers, right? Similar to that, the subconscious is infinitely layered. There's infinite layers down. And the superconscious, the mind of God, is the entire universe. So there's so many layers to that there's infinite layers within each of those three basic
Yeah.
tiers.
Robin, am I reading you right? You're saying that we're like an onion. We have layers.
Yeah, exactly. Like ogres. Yes.
I'm just peeling them back. Well, you know, I love dealing with the superconscious now, and what you've said about all those other layers is absolutely makes so much sense to me. And I'll admit I haven't started dealing with the superconscious, you know, up until the last couple of years.
Okay.
And the reason being is because when we're dealing, say, in hypnosis, for maybe that guy who might watch, you know, so you know, or listen, the subconscious, that's the part that we do talk to as a hypnotherapist.
But with that person, okay, you could have had fun with it. You could have just hypnotized him. You could have had him clucking like a chicken. You could have done that properly.
I tried. I did. I tried.
Come on, give it a go.
Look, Aaron, I was sitting there and I'm going, I was trying to act dumb. I'm like, hey, but what do you mean? Like, you know, he's going, like, well, how do those people, because it never fails. I swear, every time I've done this, it has worked. People will come up to me and say, oh, you mean you can make people cluck like chickens? No, that is not what I do. But when people say that, I usually will say, well, what are you talking about? Long story short, I act so thick that by the end of it, they're clucking up and down, giving me an example, whether it is in a restaurant or in a workshop in front of people they've never, ever met before. But I couldn't get this guy to cluck like a chicken. And I thought, you know what I ended up saying to him? I said, okay, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to hit you between the eyes. I am not an entertainer as far as hypnotherapy.
Sure.
I've only just come into saying, all right, I'll have a bit of fun and watch it because it's kind of funny, and I realize what's going on really, and all that's happening is the person feels really, really, really good, and the person has made them feel good, and it draws their confidence and it helps them to liberate. So they become liberated and they move into that. So what I said to this guy is, now if you went into a show, and even if you put your hand up, because they'll usually say, okay, who wants to come up and cluck like a chicken or do whatever, and people will raise their hands and they'll go up, you will get told to leave. So what happens is the hypnotist reads people, and because I know how this works, and I said, you are not somnolent. And then my dad's sitting across the other side. I said, my father is somnolent. I'm somnolent as well, actually. So we're very impressionable. People who are impressionable, a little bit suggestible. And it doesn't mean you're a pushover just because you're like that too. But there are people that are literally blocked. So what would you suggest? I'm going to ask this question to you. Oh, and we do have some questions to ask.
Do we? Okay.
Yeah. But,
thanks for telling me that now.
I'll just quickly ask, Robin, what would you say to a person who wants to make a change in their life and they are struggling because they're perhaps not open to this kind of work? What would you say?
Well, I think first of all, there has to be a curiosity. There has to be some willingness to explore, either explore the why question, there has to be a willingness to change their mind, but that's not what I mean by that is really change their heart. It's so most of us are spending our lives thinking our way through life. Like if I'm going to figure this out, right?
Yes.
We have been trained this way from birth, really. This is our society. This is the way, and this is part of the challenge we have right now, is that we are heads on a stick, right? I'm going to figure it out. Our heart is meant to be the master.
Okay.
So if we can even be curious about what our heart wants, what our connecting with that, again, know thyself, with that part of ourselves, you need to have that. You can want to change all you want to, but if there isn't that level of curiosity, if you aren't able to ask the why question, even if it's why did this happen to me, that's going to make it really difficult.
Okay.
It's a choice. Happiness is a choice. Joy is a choice. Consciousness is a choice. We can choose to stay asleep. We can choose to stay in the pain of being closed off, but we've trapped ourselves in it. We've trapped ourselves in it. But that does also mean that we have to be willing to open that up. And for some people, it's locked tight with an armed guard and a retinal scan and a moat and a dragon. And they're like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure you said retinal scan. Okay.
Yep, exactly.
Whole different operation. Never mind. That's a procedure.
Goodness. I reckon we might be able to get some clues anyway with some of these questions.
All right. Well, you did say a lot about choosing. I'm going to go here with George Michael. I'm going to choose life.
George
and I'm going to go, All right.
Let's go.
George Michael is not putting questions through from...
Didn't you just play him on the radio before we came on?
It was his Slightly Naughty song before that. Now, let's bring this question up here. This is from Hannah from Chicago, the Windy City, as I believe.
Yes.
Never been there, but, okay. Great things came from Chicago, and one thing that didn't come from Chicago I'll put that really badly. One horrible thing that came from Chicago was Oprah Winfrey, but that's my thought. Anyway.
Oh.
Yeah.
That was my fighting words.
She's going to be our next guest.
Oh, no. You're going to cut. Anyway, what we're going to do, let's hit the question then before I get myself in any deeper. So Hannah has said, this 5D thing is new to me. For those new to this language, what does living in 5D feel like? And how do we begin to anchor that frequency in our everyday lives?
Good question.
Really good question. So sometimes living in 5D in the 3D world feels like you're taking crazy pills. Like there's like it really feels like what is happening? But for the most part, the 5D consciousness is the unity consciousness that I mentioned. So again, if we can be in our heart space and perfectly comfortable and at home within ourselves. Living in 5D feels like an exhale breath. It's really easy to access it. If we're trying in any way, we're not there. The peace that we feel, the joy that we feel of being connected in our hearts allows us to connect with everybody and everything. How we anchor it is by returning to that again and again and again. The heart knows the way. It's the only thing that's deeply connected to the soul. It's directly the heart is directly connected to the soul, so it can speak, it can share, it can connect. And the 5D consciousness is that place of peace within us. That's what 5D is the place of peace within us. So the more we can come back to that without focusing on the external world at all, the more we can anchor it within ourselves. When we hold that, now we can be that in the world. So I'm in the world, but I'm not of it. I go out in the world and I share my light. And sometimes it's harsh out there. And sometimes it hits me and I go, oof, that's really painful. And I, in the moment, clear it out of me so that I'm not resonating at that frequency anymore. I go back to my peace, my joy, my place. That's how we
manifestation. That's the manifestation piece, isn't it?
Yes.
Frequency.
Yes. Center yourself effectively,
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, center yourself. Get out of your head, go jump out of a plane. Get out of your head. Find your peace.
I've jumped out of planes. I was still in my head. Trust me. All right, let's have a look. Yeah.
I was thinking all sorts of things as he was free falling.
Good feeling. Not the best feeling I've ever had, but, made my top 5. Okay. Lovely.
Anchor that.
Boom.
Boom.
Got a question here from Cameron in Perth. Cameron, just come in, mate. The door's open. He can lay his question out. Cameron has said, I've been watching the show lately and heard about soul contracts. What does that contract mean? And what are we really on a mission to have some of the crap happen to us before we come here? Okay.
I mean, the answer is yes. We really are on a mission to have some of the crap happen to us. That is actually true.
And we've chosen very poorly, some of us, yes.
And we chose exactly the way we needed to. What happens is we forget. We get to Earth and we forget all of the contracts. We forget all the things, and we're like, well, that sucks. I am never doing these things again.
I look at my soul contract and I think, I need a better bloody lawyer. There's no way I can run this. No way.
I have a meme where there's a little old lady with a pair of glasses studying something, and it's like me reviewing my contract. Why did I sign up for this? Again, we talk about the soul doesn't know that it's crap. There's not a bad, there's not a negative, it's just like, we want to learn abandonment in this lifetime. So then you're going to call to yourself all of the situations and times and places that abandonment, and that's expressly to learn how to choose yourself and be your own best ally. But the soul doesn't see abandonment as bad. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie. Did you ever see the movie Soul? It's a Disney movie, Pixar. Came out a couple of years ago.
I will.
No.
Brilliant movie. But there's all these little baby souls are about to go to the planet, and there's like, do you think we should like lay off on some of this like anxiety and abandonment stuff? And one of the oversoul says, it'll just sort itself out. Like there isn't that attachment to.
Gotcha.
Oh, that was a very good word. There isn't that attachment.
Yes.
Being completely detached from it.
Exactly.
I reckon that's the absolute precipice of everything here.
Precisely. Because attachment, we go back to the chakras. Attachment is what closes down the seventh chakra. It's what closes down our ability to access higher levels of consciousness. So when we attach, we've closed our field.
Okay.
So practicing detachment, which is practicing connection to ourselves, and nothing is bad. It is. Things have happened. It's not good. It's not bad. It just is. The closer we can get to that.
Oh, there's a line right there. You just wrote a T-shirt. You really did. It's not good. It's not bad. It just is.
Just is. That's good.
Yes.
That is good.
Jot that down.
Oh my goodness. I mean, that's quite incredible. And I was thinking the late Queen, she was very good at detachment.
Really?
Well, you remember Queen Elizabeth?
Of course I remember. Lizzie.
Everything that happened in her life, all the dramas, but she would say, I'm not going to dance to the tune of the public. And that would be just how she was. But she did not let anything get her down. She literally stayed detached from all her issues.
We are not amused.
Well, I mean, she may have stayed detached, but I don't know. I don't know the Queen personally, but you can detach as a form of escapism. Like, I do think there are ways to detach that it's actually a defense. So I think when I talk about detachment, I'm talking about allowing the feeling everything to its fullest degree, and then allowing it to be energy in motion. It moves through. So if you detach without that,
pain.
yes.
Feel to heal.
Feel to heal. Look at you go. Geez. I've had the absolute pleasure. I can't even explain what a pleasure it was, Robin. I was married to a sociopath, right? And what a joy every day.
It's a TikTok story.
Yeah, look, it's just fantastic. No, but as far as disattachment goes, it's very interesting because people who have that mentality, whether they're a psychopath, sociopath, narcissist, whatever, any of those little genres of nuttiness, they tend to be able to disattach, right? To everything.
Well, I think that's dissociate.
But I don't think that's actually
detachment. That's kind of what my point was.
It's disassociation, not detachment.
Because that's where different. I was. Okay, no, that's great. Because I'm trying to look for the line in the sand where the difference between being a good person who goes, you know what, I disattach from that. I wish to release that from my life because it's holding me back. It's causing me pain, whatever it's doing.
Yeah.
And that horrible side where they just, well, they don't have empathy or understanding of normal human beings. Right?
I'm so glad you raised that, because so many people would out there listening may get that mixed up and confused. But what Robin has just hit the nail on the head with is that there's a huge difference between disassociated and detached.
Well, and again, I just said that our job is to feel, right? I tell every single one of my clients to turn the volume up on whatever they're feeling. We'll sit there and I say, breathe, turn it up, turn the volume up on it, allow it to actually come through. That's part of the experience in this plane is emotion. Energy and motion. And I'm not talking the thinking, feeling this is terrible and they made me feel this way and it's awful and bad, and that's
not a victim
that's
thing.
the story. What I'm saying is I feel sadness, I feel anger, I feel frustration, and I'm like, awesome, turn it up, because that is showing you what your edge is, what your growth is, what's here for you. The emotion is the GPS.
Living on the edge.
Damn straight.
We are living on the edge.
Let's bring up our next question, and that next question is
our
from
last
Jan.
Question?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is from Jan in New South Wales. Jan has said, okay, I listened to your podcast and heard about how you were conceived into grief before you came into the world. What was the first transformational experience and how did you heal that wound?
There you go. What was your first transformational experience?
My first transformation. I mean, how do I even answer that? It probably when I was a baby. The one. I mean, as an adult, I can tell you what the initiation transformational experience was. It really was when I was. I had to be on stage. And my coach, I was in a coach training, so I was 35 years old, and my coach she said we had to be on stage and show our true selves, and I'm like panicked. There was in me, I'm going, I have no idea. Well, I don't even know what this means. What is this? And we were not allowed to get off the stage until my coach said she felt that authentic realness from us. And so now so I stood on stage and I have absolutely no idea who that is. And then horror of horrors, I burst into tears. So now I'm on stage weeping, like sideways tears, weeping. And
sexy.
It was
amazing. I just cannot imagine you doing that either. I mean, that's great.
So my coach came over to me and she said, give me all this fear, give me all this doubt, give me all of this. And I was like, just hand it to you. She's like, yeah, just give it to me. So I was truly done with it. So I handed it to her and she said, now what I want you to do is I want you to open your arms wide and I want you to let them see you like this and all your vulnerability. And I did. And then like, and I just like openly weeping, but like I'm open and I'm just like here and present. And that's what she said to me, ding, like that's the true you. And it was profound in terms of transformation.
I love that. That is very profound from a T-ball coach. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That is. And just the fact, it's not just the fright of being on a stage and the fear, because so many people do have fear of actually getting up on stage. But it's then breaking down in tears, facing one of the worst causes of vulnerability, and then opening up your arms. That just kind of sums up in a great metaphor and a great story exactly what you're talking about. So I want to just thank you so much for coming on to the show, and it's always fun. It's always fun.
I'll tell you what, I've really enjoyed talking to you, Robin. You're a really interesting person.
And
what a great perspective, honestly, really great.
Yeah, and do you have any questions at all? Like if you had a question and we just hung up the call here now and you thought, oh, I'd love to ask her that. Maybe you've got a question at home. Why don't you pop it in the comments?
Great idea.
And
absolutely. Yeah. The thing that what we do here, where we go off to so many different destinations that often, because the tech, we can only see some of the questions. really, it's a bit frustrating, but that's life. That's tech. That's also the positive of that, quite frankly, is how great is it we go to so many places. But over the week, we can actually look back and we can look at a lot of the questions that come through, a lot of the comments. We'll see those, in the coming days, which is great. So if we've got questions like that, if we could share them, that'd be great, Robin.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll answer questions all day.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's really fun.
On the couch.
Yeah. Look, it's almost 6 a.m. Drop some scotch into that coffee and away you go.
Days off from running.
To be sure. All right, have a lovely day there. And look, and I now know it is Thursday. I did think it was Friday. That's how fast my week's going.
It just feels like Friday.
Maybe this has got something to do with it. I don't know. Could be. But it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for being part of the show. Yeah, and great. I'm sure we'll catch up soon as well. Thank you very much for being part of the Genius Zone here on Edge Radio Australia.